So Mark, your session at Apex yesterday, earlier this week, was all about passenger journey mapping.
Yeah.
Can you unpack that for us a little bit?
Yeah, basically it's just talking about how you can go through this process. It's a service design process where you go through and you try to align all your touch points, your brand touch points, and you try to go through the process that a typical traveler would go through. And from basically purchasing the tickets online, going to the airport, going through the gate, going to security at the gate, boarding the plane, the flight, and then towards the end, of course, picking up your baggage and exiting. And looking at that total trip, total journey, because passengers view their experience holistically, their travel experience holistically. But it's very important to go through it and find as a team where are the pain points, the weak points, where does the brand not deliver on its value proposition? Because you obviously want to make it consistent across all touch points, like I said earlier. So this is just a way to get insight as to what the passengers are experiencing, and then look at ways to you can develop service recovery policies and procedures to try to mitigate or minimize, or better yet, just to improve that weak point in the trip to make sure that you're delivering the value, again, consistently and at a high level. This is what passengers expect, and it's what the top airlines do, actually, the ones that are very good at it. They go and do this deep dive process to get those kinds of insights.
I want to ask you a little bit about designing for the mind frame of the consumer in transit. What do you have to keep in mind about that unique transumer headspace when you're working in this space?
Yeah, I think it's really important to obviously have a really true understanding of what kind of products they consume, what's their lifestyles, and what do they surround them. So what price points, what types of products do they use, and also look at their lifestyle. Obviously, with the transumer, they're moving all the time. They're traveling for work, sometimes they're traveling for pleasure, and just seeing again how do they use products to help facilitate their travel, and what do they do when they travel. And you're doing like the psychographics, you're doing demographics, and all the kind of market research studies that you do to really understand and also observe. Again, the passenger journey mapping I was speaking about earlier is all about a qualitative process of just observing. You don't want to go in with predefined questions that guides you. It's too prescriptive. You really just want to observe human behavior and see how people are doing things, and then try to design to that. Because you can often see how they're maybe struggling with something, and then that's a latent need. Maybe the passenger necessarily couldn't articulate that. Sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. But it's good just to go in and have a team just observe, take notes, go back, cycle through all that information, and then try to pull out things that, hey, we could actually design the pain out of this, or we could design maybe a service offering to help improve it. Another way to kind of generate ancillary revenue. So you can test these things out, build some small little business model around it, run some numbers, some assumptions, see if it holds water, if the numbers work. Maybe you do a test market, and then if passengers take it and it's successful, then you can roll it out, fleet-wide entry into service. So, yeah.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about that content that's on board, and how if you could think of an example of how an airline is using that content to really reflect their brand in terms of their content selection.
Yeah, well, obviously there's a lot of exciting things going on. We see the iPad being introduced in cabin interiors. It's a big story, of course, seat-centric IFE solutions, and really content development. The airlines driving their own content from the standpoint of creating their own apps. Say you have your iPad, and they can really come up with, I think, very good ways to drive revenue. They can make sales. They can try to tap into basically impulse buying. You have a captive audience, and sometimes they're looking for something to do, and you can facilitate ways to enable them to shop easier. They have their credit card already, they have an app. They can make it very simple, very easy. Design the transaction to be very easy. So that's one way, and also the other, talking about media, the movies. I think you can control that selection process a lot more, and the interface can be designed to facilitate that.